The King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the King of Podcasts.
Wasn't that long ago that Warner Brothers Discovery merged themselves? But no, we're not done yet. Yes, there's more. Warner Brothers Discovery now wants to take Paramount along for the ride. A big corporate media merger as we wrap up 2023. Here are the Broadcasters Podcast. Of course, I got to talk about it. There's a lot of news coming about it, and discussions have already started. And what would you expect me to go and say about something like this? The deregulation that goes back 25 years. And once again, we have another issue where companies that are hemorrhaging, they're all struggling right now. You know, the strike, the actors and writers strike did not help. The pandemic did not help. And even the fact that you have Warner Brothers Discovery decided to again come together as the two streaming alliances combine on all their networks, combine as well, because they had to, you know, for them to go ahead and stay together and to continue to be the more dominant. You know, it's what these corporate companies do. You know, they pillage off of what they have in terms of intellectual property, which they've been doing right now, especially with streaming, downsizing, and really just kind of watering down all their content. Okay? With Paramount, how many more things of Yellowstone do you want? Right? With Warner Brothers Discovery, let's just change things around. Let's put as much as we can on Max. You know, for the DC Universe stuff, or the, you know, go figure, right? Of the things that have been doing. And two companies that have been performing great. I mean, Warner Brothers Discovery, I guess, you know, there still is a lot of great content and property on that platform, that big company. And then they went through the mergers. And of course, all those people that got let go for Christmas last year. Well, you know, let's see who gets ready to get and have their job cut after Christmas. Wouldn't that be great? This is why I hate the big mainstream media. These big corporate conglomerates that come on here, which I've been talking about ever since I started this show, which not next week, but the week after, will be the start of the 6th year of this program. I will have completed 5 years of this program next week. We'll celebrate it next week on the program. And just go through what we have in terms of what has happened in the last 5 years and really just go through it like that. The strikes, we can bring that up as well. But I think that's what will happen next week. 5th anniversary, we will just recap. We'll go through and just look at the entire change of what this program has heard and watched since I started it. Because even in 5 years, there's been so much that's changed here. It's ridiculous. So look at all this has happened. It's just ridiculous. There's a lot of implications to this. First of all, we know that there are certain networks and certain programming that's going to probably go by the wayside. Jobs, some consolidation, and some media outlets are going to be let go. And some programming that's also going to suffer as a result. All has to be considered. You know, the movie division, the television movies division of what they're using for traditional linear programming, for streaming, for networks. And where do you go from here? I don't know, but this is mind-boggling, but we're at it again. Let's go into what the actual story starts with. Axios gives us a pretty good, comprehensive look at what's already happened so far. So this past Tuesday in New York City, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav and Paramount Global CEO Bob Bakish met to discuss a possible merger. It's according to sources from Axios. So you would create a news and entertainment behemoth that would trigger further industry consolidation. Now, Zazoff has spoken to Sherry Redstone, remember the daughter of Sumner Redstone, who was the head of Viacom and CBS and all, now Paramount's parent company. She also ran, what was the amusement park? Showtime Amusements, I think it was. So Sherry Redstone now is here, and as the moment, the two companies are combined $39 million valuated. Warner Brothers Discovery's market value, $29 billion. Paramount, just over $10 billion. Almost a $40 billion merger in the works. A several-hour meeting at Paramount's headquarters in Times Square. And here is some of the details that have been talked about that were discussed. First of all, they discussed ways their companies could complement one another. So each company's main streaming service is Paramount Plus and Max. They can merge to better rival Netflix and Disney. That would be the initial thing that happens. That's the first thing that would come together. Is that Paramount Plus and Max would merge to become a better service. And for those that want streaming, to have the fact that Max and Paramount would come together, will they be combined and become a higher price streaming platform? Well, they're getting a lot of content. Will that also stay, or will there be some things that will go by the wayside? There's just a lot that goes on here with what they're going to do. Now, also, no word about if Warner Brothers Discovery will buy Paramount Global or its parent company, National Amusements. But both options are on the table. And bankers have already started to explore the deal. So this is what's the advantage right now for both. Okay. Warner Brothers Discovery could use the international distribution footprint to boost the franchises of Paramount. And that could mean where Paramount has children's programming assets that could be essential to Warner Brothers Discovery's long-term streaming ambitions. The other idea is CBS News combines with CNN to create a global news powerhouse. And then you have CBS shows like NCIS and Criminal Minds, their franchises, combining with Investigation Discovery and True TV. And for CBS Sports, their footprint will be combined with Warner Brothers Discoveries, which includes their relationship they already have with TV rights for March Madness. And the reason why this is happening is Paramount is dealing with debt. That's what we're dealing with radio, but this is the thing. But these companies have so much property anyway that there's not an equity firm that would go and buy up a Paramount when one of these other big media companies can just swallow them up once they go bad. Now, they've already made some changes already. Paramount has already done that. There was a report back from Puck.com that Skydance Media and Redbird Capital Partners eyed a potential deal to buy a majority stake in National Amusements. And the National Amusements reached a deal with creditors to restructure some of his debt in September, and they sold the book publisher Simon & Schuster. And they're also looking to go and unload BET Network. I guess anything else that goes with it, the BET streaming platform too, right? Now, moving along, Scripps, which was brought in as a merger with Warner Media in 2018. Let's see, Zaslav would keep his core strategic team in place, retaining new creative talent leaders from the companies he required. Now, one thing that people are talking about is, can this go past the antitrust regulations? Can Congress or the SEC or whoever it is, can they do something about that? Well, they're saying that, things are very friendly right now in the antitrust climate, that, the way currently right now DC is, that they could probably get this deal done because of who's in charge. Now, one thing is that Warner Bros. Discovery doesn't own a broadcast network. That would clear an easier path in combination with a company like NBC Universal or a Comcast. So yeah, no networks involved, no TV networks involved. Well, the fact that Warner Bros. Discovery doesn't have any TV networks, no, network TV networks, right? Linear TV, rabbit ears, right? Which is CBS. We have CBS with Paramount, right? A tax provision used to merge Warner Brothers and Discovery expires next year, and that would allow Warner Brothers Discovery to explore another deal. As Zaslav told investors last month, the company's cost-cutting measures and debt reduction are now put in a position to allocate more capital toward growth opportunities. So they already got the debt done. The debt is taken care of. They reduced debt. Now they can move along and swallow up something else. That's the plan. Now, all this right here is still early and might not become a deal. But there's a lot of reasons why this could happen because of cord cutting and the growing encroachment of big tech on media. And Paramount has to find somebody to go and help them out with their debt. It's a very feasible plan, and everybody picked up on it. So I don't see how this is not going to happen. We heard about this last year with Warner Brothers Discovery, or earlier this year, right? And everything changed. And now we're at this point. And then we look at what has come up so far. The talks are preliminary. Let's go into deadline.com that also talked about this. So the discussions have been confirmed by multiple sources. And by the way, BET could be bought by Byron Allen, who owns Entertainment Studios, among other projects. He also owns Weather Channel and other things. Now, Sherry Redstone has been, holding National Amusements and Paramount together, and she's been open to offers to sell them. Now, she was not with David Zaslav or Bob Bakish for the meeting. She had a separate conversation with Zaslav, and the role of CBS as part of the merger and a potential future deal was a major topic. Now, I don't know if they're going to do anything where they're going to have certain properties that will be picked up by Warner Brothers Discovery, or they take up the whole thing, but we don't know that yet. CBS also, not only do they have the network, they also have 28 owned television stations in many markets, many major markets of their own. So some of them they already own themselves. But CBS might be left alone and not be brought into Paramount. Because remember, it was only 20 years ago that Viacom and CBS were separate companies. And CBS was part of the Westinghouse company. And then CBS just became the CBS company, and there was a merger with Viacom. And there was a whole deal with that when UPN and CW were together, and they decided to go ahead and combine. So it's not like we haven't heard anything like this before. The CW is a result of what was Warner Brothers Television, the WB network, and UPN combining. And it's all been like that ever since. Stocks are not doing well for either company. Wall Street's not really too hot about it. They're not seeing what the benefits of it. They don't see where there's a lot of excitement behind it. So April 2022 was the closing of Warner Media's $43 billion merger with Discovery, and there was debt that was a concern, and a large swath of the cable TV assets against the backdrop of accelerating rates of cord cutting. And shares have been trading well below the price as of the deal close. So what happens if this happens here? The idea is to people asking, what would happen to the content? What shows would survive? Which ones would not? Cable TV would be definitely affected by it. So here's what we're looking at right now. Analysis from Variety.com. They talk about this. So what would a Warner Brothers Discovery Paramount combo look like, and how would it affect on the TV and film landscape? First is they all have a bunch of cable networks. Warner Brothers Discovery and Paramount have a lot of cable networks right now. The media team of Moffett-Nathanson firm, they wrote in a research note that the news of the merger, when they came out and talked about it, they said that the regulatory review of the combo would likely start with Warner Brothers and what they have in their cable lineup. It's already a greater share of linear time viewed than any other company because they have some of the most watched cable networks there are. And so who you have so far is Warner Brothers Discovery now has Food Network, HDTV, TLC, TBS, TNT, Cartoon Network / Adult Swim, Discovery, Animal Planet, CNN, TCM, True TV, ID, OWN, and they also own the Magnolia Network from Chip and Joanna Gaines, who were famous for their show that was on HDTV. So there's a lot of big channels on there across the board. Then Paramount has cable assets, which is BET, which is being talked to being sold outright. Paramount has Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, MTV, VH1, Paramount Network, CMT, and also some smaller networks. So now, Warner Bros. Discovery has the bigger channels, the more prominent channels right now. And to go figure, Paramount, look at all the assets they have in terms of intellectual property for their own. And it sucks that they have all these channels and they've just squandered them. Like MTV, VH1, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, and BET, they're all at one point, they were such powerhouses of cable. And they've just been diminished. And remember, Paramount, let's just keep cutting programming. Let's just do things that we don't need to do. We're not going to just run everything like everything else. Right? So what would need to happen for this merger to go through is that some of these channels would need to be sold off. So it would be the Paramount cable channels and Warner Brothers Discovery's own larger portfolio. That would be one of the things that would be let go. So imagine the idea if MTV, VH1, BET, so they're all predominantly music or culture channels, right? And you're saying to yourself, okay, you get rid of MTV, VH1, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, Paramount Network. Wow. Like, I could see where somebody else could pick up those channels. I mean, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, MTV, VH1 together, I could see somebody go ahead and taking those channels up as a package and just take them off Paramount's hands in terms of the leading up of the merger. Because imagine if somebody could go ahead and use those networks and do something with those to position them for something more for music and entertainment than they already have been. Like, does MTV have to be just, Teen Mom and, Jersey Shore stuff? Or does VH1 still have to be Love and Hip Hop and that's it? I mean, they were so significant previously. If somebody else got a chance to hold on to them. But then also the thing is, too, is that what do you do in terms of changing things up with the programming? I mean, you could use those brand names for streaming purposes. I mean, do you want to keep them as network channels? So you do make them part of more streaming services, something like that. That's not a bad idea. They could say something where they could try to keep Paramount Network, because obviously the Yellowstone show does very well. Nickelodeon gives a lot of what they're going to do right now when it comes to kids. And the demographic they get on cable, same thing with Cartoon Network. But I mean, Cartoon Network already takes a lot of what Nickelodeon would probably have. Because I don't know how much Nickelodeon really has in terms of real staying power and what they're doing and what content is really holding up for them. Because nobody really talks about Nickelodeon much. And then more from this firm, Moffett-Nathanson, they say that combine assets of the cable plus the movement to broadcast where CBS could be brought in. Here's the other part. So drop the cable networks, pick up CBS. And CBS, you have a lot of different things, which can work well for streaming and work for linear. Because CBS still does really well with their content. Listen, their own studios. And so all those shows they combine together, all the NCISs, all the CSIs, all the, FBIs, they're all combined with one spot. I mean, except for the fact that, Dick Wolf has his productions company, but the other shows are all CBS shows, CBS studio shows, which were really Paramount Pictures productions. And then the other part, too, is that Warner Brothers Discovery could be looking to make an acquisition for the broadcast network. NFL must have other sports rights, plus a leading free TV service, streaming service like Tubi. The option of 18.6% in FanDuel and a studio lot that you can see where Fox, would be much better fit currently trading at a discount valuation and an easier deal to pull off, they said. So the idea is that what do you take out of Paramount? What do you keep? And what can you just sell off? Is what they're saying. So if they make the point of saying, all right, we're just going to go ahead and just pick this up. We're going to cut some of the fat out of it and then just take what we want out of it, which is a corporate thing to do. But if that means a couple of channels get dropped off and they get taken over by, somebody takes these other channels, that would be nice. Who would take them and what would they put on those channels? What kind of content could be done? Like who could buy them? I'd be curious to see what they're going to do and what could be done with it. That would be a pretty nice idea. I would like to go and see what it all looks like. Now, we look at the merger and acquisition conundrum, because what we do know is that Paramount Global has gone through a lot of shit. There's a reason why they're in this mess in the first place. And Deadline went and talked about that about a week ago, before this is all going on. So obviously this story probably, kind of helped out with the whole thought process of like, well, you know what? Paramount Global, they're not going to be able to hold up where they are now. They need to do something to get rid of their debt. And among other things. So now Paramount Global, they were hampered by the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. The company's streaming operation, Paramount Plus, bleeding cash, right? And there was an ad slowdown. We've already seen across all different channels and all different media outlets. Squeezing cable networks already jeopardized by cord cutting. So does the company have enough scale to compete? And that was the problem they were discussing right there. So think about what Paramount does have that's important. They have CBS, all those 28 local owned and operated stations, the cable networks, and a 111-year-old movie studio. Remember, the Paramount studio and all that goes along with that. You know, to be able to pick that up at $10 billion, wow, what a deal. That's a lot right there. And like I said, if they were going to sell off for a couple $1 billion, all those cable networks, because they probably would just let those go. All those cable networks, they could just drop them off. And who knows if they can come back to cable, because then it's just got to be who's going to go and pick those up. Because, I mean, what is there in cable right now that could be really done? Like, what is there that anybody's going to be doing to go ahead and like bring up an upstart cable company? There's not a lot of cable channels coming back up anymore. They're all being opened up on streaming. So what do? I don't know. But it would be nice to see if somebody actually picked those channels up. I'd love to see like an Amazon try to pick up like an MTV, VH1, Nickelodeon, all those, do something with that. Like I'd like to see if one of those other big media companies would take that up and do something with it. It's just a thought. Now, there was some things that triggered the idea that a merger could be coming, because in mid-November, Paramount changed their in-control severance protection plans. So the CEOs, and you know, if something happened to them, their golden parachutes were being secured. So CEO Bob Bakish, other top executives, that if the company were to change hands, that all these Paramount folks would be taken care of. At a Wall Street conference last week, S&P's top media analyst, they painted a dire picture of Paramount's finances. And it was on the lowest rung of investment grade after a downgrade. And it would be a tougher time raising cash if that happens, right? If Paramount were to lose their valuation and Wall Street starts downgrading them, they need to go and do something now to take care of it. And National Amusements already is holding on to 77% of Paramount shares, and they're not doing well. Now, National Amusements has 800 locations. Their theater chain, they're about $200 million in debt. 800 locations there. It's the smallest of the major Hollywood studios. Linear television declines. CBS and cable networks are highly dependent on advertising, and the company's unloaded assets, including BlackRock, the longtime CBS headquarters in Manhattan, the Radford lot in Studio City, so like properties that would have housed either projects or staff or whatever, they were dropping off. So they unloaded buildings. Television City in Los Angeles, they let go of Television City. And Simon & Schuster, the book publisher, they let that go too. They tried to sell BET, but the offers were not good. And they rejected bids for Showtime. Now, a lot of things were going on in terms of the Redstones and how they've run the company. And, you know, the ownership of what they have. So, Sherry Redstone's father, Sumner Redstone, built a global business out of a Boston theater chain launched by his father, Michael Redstone. And Sherry Sumner had their share of conflict, and the elder Redstone died in 2020, publicly insulted his daughter over the years. And the idea of selling something that took decades to build is not a casual decision, but she may need to make some decisions out of necessity, not convenience. So, like, Paramount Global is against the wall. Their debt's going to start coming up. They have no choice but to go ahead and merge with somebody else or just get bought. Now, Paramount's the only one that's affordable for a company like, you know, they say that for somebody else to go ahead and pick up. Now, the company at that time was, their enterprise value was $23 billion, but the studio itself is $7 billion. But now what you're doing is, okay, somebody wants to go and pick up all of Paramount, all of it. And imagine what they're going to get the price for and what they get. Like Warner Brothers Discovery, you get a broadcast network with a legendary name. Those cable networks, you could drop. Those TV stations are still valuable. Like, there's things that they're going to be able to do with it. I don't know what they'll do with it, but there's value still behind them because they're still profitable in some way, shape, or form. Now, one of the things they talk about with the merger is like, okay, there will be certain properties that'll probably be dropped off. But then the other question is, will any of these properties they pick up, will they actually decide to go and operate them and do better with them? And that's a question that's been asked. And can they do that in the age of cord cutting and for people moving to streaming? Now, the word is that unloading TV would be complicated because the TV stations continue to generate considerable free cash flow and decline. Securing distribution is a much more complicated task than ever for network owners. Paramount has major carriage renewal deadlines with Comcast. So like Paramount and their cable channels are going to have to go into deadlines to renew with Comcast and Charter, two of the biggest cable operators right now over the next several months, over broadcast fees, carriage fees. And they'll be raised for sure. Comcast and Viacom CBS signed a renewal in 2022, but insiders have confirmed the companies are facing another one at the end of the month. Now, the cable companies can now hold up these companies for ransom over the carriage fees. They did that when Disney and Charter had an issue where for 10 days, Charter subscribers could not watch ABC, ESPN, or other networks until a renewal was reached. And casualties of that were channels like Freeform and FXX were permanently dropped from Charter Cable. Not even on there anymore. So Freeform and FXX lost a chunk of their clearance across the country. To not be available on that cable service and potentially others is dire. And then they talk about some of the things that are going on when it comes to Nickelodeon as a cable brand. The stakes in their distribution negotiations are significant. Now, they collect about $1 billion in affiliate fees annually. Nick brands like Paw Patrol have shown they have huge merchandise potential tied to various Paramount properties. Over the summer, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cleared $1 billion in global retail. That's just for the year alone. And that was thanks to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie that got $180 million as a result. And overall, what they did with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to bring that franchise back up once again, revive it, it was very ambitious. They got over 400 licenses for the film and 1,100 for the whole franchise. So a lot of different deals, merch, content, everything. Just a cash cow. And that's something that Nickelodeon owns. But then you also have to pick up Paramount Plus, which has been losing money. Last quarter, it lost $238 million. The streaming service, rebranded after the merger of CBS All Access and Showtime, has hit peak losses, but there's no indication if it could turn a profit. It could bundle more aggressively. They explored a potential bundle with Apple TV Plus. They've done hard bundles internationally to drive adoption and struck a pact with Delta Airlines to show their content. Now, while Paramount Plus has been struggling, what they do have is a fast service. Like Tubi, they have Pluto TV. And they're racking up billions of dollars in ad sales and get a small fraction of what streaming siblings do on programming, and they've stayed out of the originals race. Right? They're just rehashing content. They got all these different shows that Paramount has, and they're just putting them on there as like 24-hour channels of different shows. And they're banking. They're banking. So there are analysts that say that the legacy media is worsening as we move into next year, and executives are finally realizing that linear TV advertising is never getting better. Right. It's not coming back. So they better figure out what they're going to do. They have to get their advertising on somewhere, and they don't know where they're going to put it, which is why they're trying to get the streamers to go ad supported, and hopefully there'll be enough subscribers that'll watch it compared to what there else is out there. Plus, you need sports to be out there to be able to put out commercials. That also has to come into play. So imagine that. Now, David Zaslav also made comments prior to the merger. Nothing was even said about that, but, he talked to the New York Times Deal Book Summit last month, and he says that at the time he says, I think we have everything we need. After the merger is closed and, they can go back and do more things, they said that the company could be a target themselves starting in April, because after 2 years of the close of the merger, every public company is technically for sale. But they're positioned for growth next year. So they said that, and they're going to have options. So they're exercising those options. This story was put out, like I said, last month. This was a week ago, And there we go. All the way to the front. All the way to the front. we're going to keep an eye on that and see if that actually closes. But there's a lot to be said about what that does and what potentially does. I mean, most people are going to ask, like, what's going to do for our streaming content? I mean, you think about what's going to be going on. Because really, I mean, for myself, there's not much on Paramount Plus I watch. You know what I did watch, and I will say was really funny? I watched the newest South Park episode, Not Suitable for Children. I laughed hard. Let me tell you, South Park has not gotten, it is consistent. I mean, even doing something that is so current, so funny. Plus, if you've been watching South Park for all these years, there's just certain things they do that just, I mean, the way they come back with things, I mean, the timing was good. Everything about it was funny. And it's so current. I loved it. It was so good. So good. Now, Variety.com decided to go ahead and put out their 100 greatest TV shows of all time. This is a very tough list to make. And they obviously did not worry about going back as far as they wanted to in terms of talking about which shows they thought were the best. Now, miniseries were even included in this, which was very interesting. But you know, I can't knock it. And also got to remember that with the shows they're talking about, you know, they didn't worry too much about what was on network TV or what was on regular cable TV or whatever it was, or pay TV. They obviously did not mind getting in here and looking at it. So let's look at what they have so far in terms of the list. The Community is number 100, by the way. And we'll go through some of the other shows they have. But the top 10 shows they have right now currently on their list. Roots is number 10. The 1977 Alex Haley novel-written 8-episode series. You know, at some point I'm going to have to watch that. I never watched it because, you know, I didn't get a chance to go and see it because it was at that point I didn't get a chance to see it. But it's, you know, the fact that Roots really was a major event. I mean, millions, you know, tens of millions watching that. Because also at that time where, like, you know, when a miniseries like that happened, everybody watched it. Like all the other networks, they kind of just like fell out of favor. But usually a miniseries would be a week. This was 8 episodes. And then the miniseries, because of Roots, became a thing all the way into the 90s. Because we had the Shogun, Thornbirds, Lonesome Dove. And this was in January, by the way, they ran this. And more than 100 million Americans stayed home to watch the story of Kunta Kinte and his descendants. Number 9, The Mary Tyler Moore Show. All right. And, you know, there's a lot of shows that you could say about that, but I mean, really, a lot of comedies can really take away from what Mary Tyler Moore did on that show and the cast they had. With Ed Asner, Gavin MacLeod, Ted Knight, among others, right? That was a hell of a show. Very funny. Very funny show. Seinfeld, number 8. That's a good choice. I like that too. That was also very good. The Wire is number 7. I love that. And there's certain shows that are of my favorites that are on this list that are up at the top, which I like as well. Sex and the City, number 6. That's a good placement. I can see that. Number 5, Breaking Bad. About right. I mean, of course, there's certain shows on this list that are not necessarily my cup of tea, but I get it. No, Sex and the City was very good. Breaking Bad, extremely good. The Simpsons, number 4. I mean, for the legacy that it has, for the fact that it's been around so long, I get it, but I wouldn't have put it this high. Simpsons, number 4? No, not really. But it's amazing it's gone on. It's going to be 35 years coming up. This is ridiculous. 35 seasons, 750 episodes. It's been around, and people still watch it. Sopranos, number 3. I like that. I like that listing right there. Mad Men above Sopranos, number 2. Maybe Mad Men I would have put back behind Sopranos. And then number 1. Now, some people might just, well, you know, they're not familiar, but you want to talk about one of the most groundbreaking TV shows, like really what did, I mean, of the sitcoms that started in the 50s. And when you look at what we had, there was I Married Joan, and there was what? Not Donna Reed yet. Donna Reed wasn't on yet. And Southern, I think, was going around that time. I'm going back to, like, you know, this is like Nick at Night stuff. Back in the 90s, I used to watch. But that's the thing, too. I Love Lucy. Such a unique show. Good cast. Very funny. Very basic. Like, I mean, if you want to just, like, anybody could watch that show and laugh. Okay. And the show still holds up. And you can still find that show worldwide. People are watching it. It was instrumental. The 3-camera sitcom system that we have today started from I Love Lucy. And then everything that goes along with that, so much that was done as a result. Good jokes, physical comedy, everything. Because I'll tell you, I mean, even going up into almost the 2000s, you could not get away from I Love Lucy because that show was so on. You're talking about one of the best comedians, okay, female comedians of all time on television, stage, screen, all of it. Lucille Ball, great. Desi Arnaz, great. And by the way, so smart. Those two after that show, putting together Desilu Productions and all the shows they brought up after that. I mean, a powerhouse of a company. And everything goes after that. Like, I don't think, if you've been a long time TV fan like I am, I'm not gonna go ahead and go against the fact that I Love Lucy's on this list at number 1. That's a fine choice at number 1. I got no problem with that. In the list we have here that they go through, Community's number 1, 100, and I go into other shows. Homeland 98. These are the shows that I enjoy, by the way, of my favorites. Homeland I would have put up higher, but Homeland on the list, I'm happy about that. Carrie Matheson, Saul Berenson, like, come on, baby. You know what? Homeland was wonderful. And, we first got Damian Lewis as Nicholas Brody. Like, damn, that show was good. This show was good. Showtime, big time work. And, I was never a big Claire Danes fan. I mean, she was good in Mod Squad. I never watched My So-Called Life. But, man, Carrie Matheson, it just blew me away. It's a fantastic character. Fantastic character. Love shows like this. Great. Top Chef 97. Good Fight. Not Good Wife. But I'm sure Good Wife goes in there. Black Mirror 95. What else do I got in here? Will Grace 93. St. Elsewhere 92. That makes sense. Daria made a list. The Cosby Show at 90. But you know what? You can imagine that show probably took a tumble down because of Bill Cosby's, tarnished career. Let's just put it like that. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is on the list at 89. General Hospital 88. Okay. Hey, soap operas made it. Happy Days made it. Girls made it. Columbo made it. Wow. Atlanta's on the list. Stranger Things makes the list at 83. Fleabag's on the list at 82. Scandal is 80. Well, you know what? If you give me the first 4 seasons or first 5 seasons of Scandal, yes. But it got ridiculous after that. Scandal got ridiculous, but that's just ABC shows. It always does that. But give me the first 4 seasons of Scandal. Really good. Really good. I mean, I can't say much more about that. But Olivia Pope, there was a lot of things to that show. Her daddy on that show, Papa Pope. Oh, yeah. Good show. Good show. Muppet shows up here, 79. Dallas. Wait a minute. Dallas, I just watched 357 episodes of Dallas. That show should have been like top 20. It could have been top 10. Come on. Dallas at 70. Oh, see, it's been gone too long. Should have been higher. Come on, man. Also, with the show you're talking about with, the infamous Who Shot JR episode, one of the biggest in summer of 1980. And just so much more like, oh, man. Larry Hagman, J.R. Ewing, one of the best villains there was in television. It should have gone a lot higher. Bobby, come on, damn it. Come on. Could have gone higher than that. Daily Story with Jon Stewart at 77. Interesting. And I need to move this over because for whatever reason, Variety, I have this list on here and it's struggling to go ahead and keep up. So I got to put this in another window so I can actually keep watching. All right, here we go. Back to this. Daily Story with Jon Stewart. Fresh With of Bel Air 76. I don't know. Taxi 75. I'm glad it made a list. Deadwood is on the list. 74. That's a show I have to watch. I have not watched it yet. I need to go and catch it. NYPD Blue 73. And it's amazing he's at that spot because of all the changes that have gone on with the lineup. I mean, David Caruso leaving that show. I mean, first season, man, it was like Shelley Long leaving Cheers. Was that a smart move? Wonder Year 72. Never watched that show. Not one episode. Living Single, I did watch. 71. American Crime Story, People vs. O.J. Simpson. That was good. I don't think I would put it on the list. At 70. Roseanne, 69. Now, they're not including the Connors. They're just saying basically that it's, Roseanne is like a standalone, they said. Grey's Anatomy, 68. I never watched one episode of that. RuPaul's Drag Race, really? Bob Newhart Show, 66. Interesting. Yeah. So if the Bob Newhart Show from the 70s is at 66, then Newhart's got to be higher. It has to be higher. Freaks and Geeks, 65. I know everybody's so caught up on that show because of all the people that came out of that show. I get it. There's a lot of big names that came out of that, and only one season. I never got into that. Jefferson, 64. Good. Angels in America, I never watched it. The Comeback, no. Orange is the New Black makes 61. Yeah, that should make the list. That's good. Oh, the first Netflix entry, by the way. In Living Color, 60. I agree with that, too. Great show. I mean, if I found it on cable, I'd watch it. And I remember watching all of them new. All of them. 59 is South Park. I agree with that. I'm glad they made the list. Good Place is 58. Chappelle Show, 57. Significant. And the fact that the show left on top. That Chappelle just dropped off. Yep. Law & Order SVU. I'm sure the Law & Orders had to make the list. 56 for SVU. BoJack Horseman, 55. Never watched that. Gilmore Girls, 54. Never watched 6 Feet Under. Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, 52. I probably would have put that higher as well. Arrested Development, 51. My So-Called Life, 50. And I never watched that show. Claire Danes was cute. She was pretty, but I never got into that show. It wasn't my kind of show. Watchmen, 49. HBO show. S.H.I.E.L.D., 48. I agree. I agree with S.H.I.E.L.D. in this list. Absolutely. Vic Mackey, great character. Then Justified needs to be on this list. As a matter of fact, I hope it is. Moving along, Friday Night Lights, 47. I never watched it. Dick Van Dyke Show, 45. Okay. But there's a lot of importance to Dick Van Dyke, right? Star Trek Next Generation, 44. Then Star Trek must be up here as well. Larry Sanders, 43. And I never watched an episode of that. And I should. Probably would have enjoyed it, but it was one of those at the time just did not catch. The Americans, 42. Oh. See, I'm glad these FX shows are making it up here. These are good. And Americans, I could probably watch that again. I could probably go back and binge that whole damn series again and catch more of it. Fantastic show. Kerry Russell, Matthew Rhys, love that damn show. Love it. It was great. I definitely recommend it. Real World, 41. Not want to put it high. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is 40. Office, 39. Some people will probably say that should be higher. X-Files, 38. That definitely need to make the list. Moving along. Late Night with David Letterman, 35. Wait a minute. David Letterman's ahead of Johnny Carson? I don't know about that. ER, 34. Jeopardy, 33. Okay. Then Price is Right needs to be on this list. And Match Game, but they're probably not. Lost, 32. I never watched one episode of Lost. I've seen some clips. And I know what the cast was about. I don't know what it was about. No. Survivor, 31. Hill Street Blues, 30. That's a show I got to catch on. I have to go look for that. I need to watch Hill Street Blues. Because I know I would enjoy that show if I watched it. Friends, 29. And I'm sure some people would want that show to be higher. Twin Peaks, 27. Never watched one episode. Not even the new series on Showtime. No Dexter on this list. I guess, no Dexter. Veep is 26. West Wing, 25. Yeah, I agree with that. My family used to watch that show. I remember when they used to have it on Bravo's reruns. Man, they would watch that like crazy. 7 o'clock at night watching over dinner. MASH, 24. Yeah, you could have put that up a little higher too. And I don't know if you could just say if it was better, towards the end or earlier. Like, I guess for me, was it better with Honeycutt or was it better with Trapper John? It was better with B.J. Honeycutt. Yeah, the later ones. Yeah, Mike Farrell. I agree. Carol Burnett Show. Yes, 23. That's a good placement. Very good placement. Great show. Great comedy. Funny. Just give me like clips of like, give me Tim Conway making Harvey Korman break out. Just give me that. That Mama's Family. The one with the elephant. Oh man, that's funny shit. Yeah, that show was great. Carol Burnett was fantastic. That's a funny ass show. 30 Rock is 22. Yeah, we know all the critics really loved that show. I was never a fan of 30 Rock. Game of Thrones. So and I'm surprised that Parks and Rec did not make it. Game of Thrones 21. Yeah, makes it good right there. 60 Minutes at 20. Good. We're getting some good ones. Playhouse 90 is at 19. That's a legendary for CBS in the very early days of television. That was big. Golden Girls 18. I agree with that. You could still put on Golden Girls. I am still watching. And I mean, I watch the clips still pop up on TikTok all the time, and I still laugh because it's just funny. That was just what a well-written show. What a funny show. What a great cast. Great cast. Oprah Winfrey, 17. She's very significant. And the one talk show that's on here. No Donahue. No Donahue. What other shows? No? Yeah. That's it. All in the Family, 16. Yes, first 4 seasons. As long as Mike and Gloria stayed in the house, the show was good. I wasn't really much anything after that once they moved out of the house. Not really. Saturday Night Live 15, it has to be on that list. I know. Maybe not some seasons better than others. Like give me most of the 70s, partly the 80s, mid 80s to what? Mid 90s. A little bit into the maybe late 90s. About far that. Succession is 13. Interesting. I haven't watched the show. And I also heard just kind of up and down. But okay. Sesame Street's 12. That makes sense. Cheers, 11. Cheers, great show. Great show. And, it was funny that Brandon Tartikoff mentioned the fact that, they were looking at who else would be Sam Malone on that show. But look at the careers of Ted Danson, Woody Harrelson, Shelley Long, Kelsey Grammer. Kirstie Alley was great on that show. By the way, the Kirstie Alley years were the better years than Cheers. Let's just put it like that. It was. And also just some great, actors on the side. Cliffy and Norm and Ken Frasier. Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. And think the fact that Frasier spun off and then spun off again, incredible. It's a pretty good list. You're going to have some deterrents, and some people are going to be, discussing. They might be a little bit not so high on it, but I like the list. It was pretty good. It's a good talk for about 15 minutes. Some other things that are going on right now in terms of changes in networks and what they're going to be doing coming up. One of the things that's coming right now is Amazon looking to buy what is Diamond Sports. They're the owners of what was the Fox Sports regional networks, now called Bally Sports. Diamond Sports, which is owned by Sinclair Broadcast Group, is under bankruptcy right now. And they've been having issues where they were at risk of losing some of their license or some of their carriage rights, broadcast rights for various NBA, NHL, and Major League Baseball teams, which is really what is their bread and butter of these channels. So Amazon right now is looking to acquire a stake in Diamond Sports Group, according to multiple reports. So the regional sports network's 40 teams would go to Prime Video. Ooh. If they did that, it would be great. I got Prime Video. I would take that. That would be a nice addition for sports, especially for them. Nobody knows how much it's going to be, but Diamond, a Sinclair Broadcast Group subsidiary, the nation's largest regional sports company, holds TV rights to more than 40 teams across the NBA, Major League Baseball, NBA, and NHL on a local network chain branded as Bally Sports. So Diamond will still operate the networks, but their games will be streamed on Amazon Prime Video at some point in the future. And a deal between Amazon and the company would have to be approved by a bankruptcy judge. And a streaming deal with Amazon could also alleviate Diamond's drops in subscriber revenue, as virtually all cable broadcasters contend with cord cutting and the risk of declining ad revenue in an age dominated by streaming services. And by the way, the reason why Diamond Sports went to shit is because they tried to build their own streamer, and it hasn't worked. And that's their problem. So if Amazon were to take over and say, "Oh, well, we'll pick this up for you," yeah, that would be nice. And Amazon doesn't want to go ahead and run it. They'll keep people on to go and run it, but they'll just buy and they'll use it for what they need to use, and they got the money for it. Then that would be good for them to get that. That's a big deal to have. By the way, the fact that those sports networks were actually let go is similar to what when Fox and Disney had their merger a while back, that when Disney only wanted to get the movie and TV assets of Fox, they got rid of all the Fox Sports networks because they had ESPN. They didn't need them. So the Fox Sports networks were dropped. So that's something that they already got so far. And actually, Amazon owns a stake in the Yes Network, which broadcasts New York Yankees and New York Mets games. So they already got a setup with that. There's already a precedent in place. That's what we're going to bring into right now. Music Business Worldwide put out a story that interests me about the future of music videos and what could be happening with music in general. I've been watching a lot now on TikTok of so many songs I hear from different artists that I get to hear in 15 or 30-second snippets. And also just like the promotion of different artists across the board, right? Let me put it like this. So when I see like Nicki Minaj and her album Pink Friday 2 came out, I saw nothing promoted about that. Because I don't follow her channel necessarily. And even if I did, I didn't see it on my For You page. It did not make my way through. Tate McRae and her album Think Later, I saw so much about that because I do follow her. And I just kept following, and other people keep coming up because you see so many people that are putting out different dance challenges and stuff like that. And I see so many clips of her on stage. So yeah, I probably watch a lot of her. She's good looking, and I like her. I like her music. What can I say? And I just saw so much more promotion for that, and the streaming said a lot for that. So Nicki Minaj might not get the streaming numbers that she might get, but also really weird that people are putting out albums now at the end of the year where it's like, okay, what? We're doing this while Christmas songs are dominating the streaming charts right now, but okay. Now, as we know that TikTok wants to be involved in the music game and do much more than just be playing 15-second clips. So TikTok has announced new mold-breaking deals with Warner Music Group and DistroKid and other discussions they've been making on. And they launched their Add the Music app feature. We talked about that on the show, allowing users to save songs they discover on TikTok to playlists on other streaming platforms. And even its own TikTok music streaming service, which is looking to go and rival Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and others. It's already live in Brazil, Indonesia, Australia, Singapore, and Mexico. Now, some of these, Australia, Singapore, Mexico will not have any music from the Universal Music Group in that platform. And also TikTok has expanded ticketing partnerships with Ticketmaster, and their first ever live music event has been going on, TikTok in the Mix. First of many, if it goes well, taking place in Arizona in December, and artists like Cardi B, Niall Horan, and Anita all performing. They also launched their Artist Account Toolkit, offering artists and labels a range of features to help spotlight releases. So there's a lot going on. Now, Olby Olbermann is the person that runs things over at TikTok for music, and he was a senior digital person at Sony and Warner before switching to TikTok in 2019. And they're doing a lot of work there now. 2023's top 10 global TikTok tracks, once dominated by U.S. pop and rap. Well, this will feature artists this year from South Korea, Thailand, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Vietnam, Colombia, and France outside of the U.K. and U.S. And that the range of artists currently bubbling up like crazy on TikTok, from Tate McRae to Tyla. Tyla's great. And Ray, also in the mix, and also Inigo Quintero. There's a lot of different artists are being discovered. And honestly, there's so much new music I've discovered from TikTok on a regular basis. I love it. It's wonderful. TikTok claimed last year that 14 out of the 15 U.S. Hot 100 songs were driven by significant viral trends on TikTok, and that the strike rate should be as good or maybe better. So TikTok, keep an eye on that as they become much more relevant in the music game. Meanwhile, radio is not doing anything about it. And how about this for some interesting information? Disney and the Mickey Mouse character. The copyright on the earliest versions of the Mickey Mouse character will be expiring next year. It'll be public domain. So going back to the 1928 short Steamboat Willie, they become available for public use. U.S. law allows the copyright to be held for 95 years after Congress expanded it several times during Mickey's life. And so Mickey Mouse, the figurehead of Disney, is now going to be available in some variations. It'll be out there as public domain. What an interesting time for that. Wow. Incredible. So there you go. Other domain things that are coming out next year: Charlie Chaplin's film Circus, Virginia Woolf's novel Orlando, and Eugene O'Neill's play Long Day's Journey into Night, among other things. Now, that's it for the show. Next week, like I said, we'll probably go ahead and get into what the last 5 years, basically, of this program has done, because we will be celebrating the 5th anniversary of this program. What a wonderful time. Good time to go ahead and just reflect back. And I've enjoyed, again, 310 episodes I've done. A lot of fun. I've enjoyed it immensely. And I'm not slowing down. I am having a great time right now, and it's so much better. So we'll leave it just like that. That's the show for tonight. Thanks for listening in, finding the shows you always do. Of course, the website for all the content you're looking for, right here, this program, KingOfPodcasts.com. That's where I have all my content there. You can find it all there for yourselves. And more importantly, you can also find all my social media sources. You want to find me on TikTok, X, Threads, Instagram, Facebook. It's all right there. KingOfPodcasts.com. All my past episodes. Also on YouTube at King of Podcasts. Please subscribe, like, and share the episodes. Until next week, remember the content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands. Talk to you next week after 5 years of the program. Thank you for all of it.